Welcome to a very happy Christmas and New Year here on The Perspective with Mike Sherbino and Julie Stautland. It sure seems these days as everywhere we turn there's just more bad news and a lot of confusion. But take heart, as Paul wrote in Corinthians, God is not the author of confusion, and the good news is Jesus Christ. All this week on The Perspective, we continue to celebrate the majesty of the season with the incredible and powerful sounds and songs of Grammy-nominated musical team Kristen and Keith Getty, live from their tour bus and critically acclaimed show Sing an Irish Christmas. And Rachel Baribeau is changing the narrative one person at a time through her incredible insight into the world of sport and what she's doing to break down barriers and change lives. Plus, if it seems as if someone's always asking for your money these days, it's become a serious consideration where to spend our money. Here to help us answer the question through his latest book, Who's Eating Your Pie, is author and financial expert Eric Weir.
Well, I'd like to ask you a question as we're in this whole season of Christmas. What's your level of joy like? How high is it? Julie, I'm going to put you on the spot. Like, how's the joy meter? Any stress, tension? You've been grumpy at all lately?
Well, I'm sure I've been grumpy. I just asked my family at points. But I'm feeling good. I'm getting the family home, so I just love having the family home.
It's going to be a lot of fun, isn't it?
It's going to be
just
fun.
when you can connect. And for some
That's
people,
right.
that's a sadness because they're not going to be able to connect.
Yeah.
But, we want to talk about joy today. And, who better to do that with than the person who claims to be our favorite guest? And that's Rachel Baribeau. Rachel, welcome to the program today. I got a copy of your new book here, and it's called Relentless Joy. But what kind of took away the joy is that it's not going to be released until late spring. And so we're going to have to wait for it. But let's just jump in and talk to us a little bit about the book. What was the motivating factor behind it?
Motivating factor behind the book was the fact that no matter what I've been through in my life, and when people stand in front of me and say, well, you don't know. Well, honey, I probably do. I've been through losing everything, losing my parents, addiction, abuse, all sorts of things. And yet still there was joy. There was joy, persistent, beautiful joy. And I was just telling somebody the other day, even I remember being in my prayer closet after losing my mother and being face down in the fetal position and just bawling my eyeballs out, going to a broken heart and then losing my mother. And my little dog would come up and lick my tears away while I was just a puddle falling apart. And I told somebody, I said, that was joy. That was the Lord reminding me that he hasn't left me. And he used this little dog, which, dog is God spelled backwards, right? To show me that. And so I teach people, no matter what you're going through this season, the holidays are great, but they're also hard for me. Yesterday, y'all, I was in the gym and somebody that did not know was talking about how, God had to spend 2 weeks with his parents. And he didn't know that triggered me because I wish I had my parents to spend Christmas with. I'd do anything to sit on a bench with them for 1 minute or get one hug or one kiss. And I recognize that people are going through those things, but still there was joy in that. I was able to work through the trigger, acknowledge my feelings, do things that I knew nurtured my soul, take care of myself. And so I would say to you guys, my favorite people, and yes, I named myself the favorite guest, the forever guest, and to your listeners and your viewers, that even in the toughest of times, I challenge you to find the joy because it is there just waiting to be discovered.
Well, there's all sorts of triggers, right? I over-talk usually, but, as you're talking about being in the gym, that triggered something for me. And it was the fact that I wasn't at the gym.
He's so bad. But
Okay, Julie.
On that point, I want to say, I think the point you're making is that joy doesn't just happen. I think from what you're sharing, you're choosing joy. You're making a decision. And God obviously has a moment where he used your dog even in that to give you some joy. But if I'm hearing you right, you're choosing it. It's not something that people can just sit and go, well, I'm waiting. It hasn't arrived yet, right?
Yes. And my personal tagline for the book is how to find, keep, and cultivate joy in a dark world. And I had a friend the other day say to me, and it struck me so deeply. They said, you are a joy seeker. You're a person like that notices joy. You are that person. And for somebody else to see that in me just, blew my mind. Right. And so, yes, it is something you have to choose. It is something you have to go after with your whole heart. And I totally believe that no matter your circumstances, you can choose joy. And the book is all about learning to be a joy seeker, to be a joy starter. We even have a new club before the book comes out called the Joy Starters Club. And for the cost of a cup of coffee a month, you get to join like-minded people from around the world, get a journal, start to learn how to cultivate joy. Because did you guys know, from a psychological standpoint, what we focus on is what we tend to see. What do I mean by that? If we're grumpy, if we're bitter, if we're complainers, if we're all the time, that's what you're going to see in the world. But if you start to focus on gratitude and joy and peace and harmony and love and giggles and the smallest of things, you will literally rewire your brain to start seeing those things and noticing those things. And so that's what we're doing with the Joy Starters Club. And for your viewers, if they want to be a part, it's an international thing. They can go to joystartersclub.com.
You know
Okay.
what?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, for some people, I know, taking myself back years and years ago, someone says, well, you have to choose joy. You have to work on joy. And you're like, I don't want to be happy right now. I have a right to feel this way, and I'm not happy about it. How do you get those people who are like, I'm digging my heels in, and I'm not happy, and then you're telling me to choose joy, and you want to join this club? What would you say to them?
I would say that I'm not telling you not to feel your feels. I'm just telling you not to stay there.
Right.
Okay? I'm telling you to run the gamut of emotions. I recognized my trigger yesterday. It wasn't joyful for somebody to talk about being, to hear somebody talking about, I got to be with my parents for 2 weeks, when I wish I could just touch my mother's face or my father's face. It wasn't joyful for me. But what was joyful for me was working through it and honoring my own soul and recognizing what I needed to do to get through that. Tap, pray, a breathing exercise by our mindfulness expert that works with us, Lindsay Friesman, where you breathe in for 6, hold for 2, and breathe out for 6. So I have found the things that help me get through those non-joyous moments so that I can see clearly. And so I wouldn't tell people, because I think that's kind of like a little bit like a toxic positivity type thing. Like, I'm not telling you not to feel your feels. I'm not telling you not to recognize that you're struggling right now. I'm saying in the midst of your struggle, there is still joy.
That's perfect.
Okay, I had a couple funny lines to say beforehand, and I'm going to work it in even though it doesn't work. I'm thinking, I don't want to be part of your coffee club. But if it was a coffee and donut club, that's a whole other thing, okay?
Oh,
You just got to fill it out. Next thing I want to mention. Okay, so you got this word, you're a retired national sports broadcaster.
Yeah.
We've already come to the conclusion you're too young to be retired, but
Exactly.
we'll just leave that one. But we do know that you broke many of the stories about sexual abuse and the scandals in college sports. We live here in Canada, and we're just getting nailed right now with the National Hockey League that we're so proud of, and not so much with the National Hockey League, but with Hockey Canada and the young people coming up. There's been so many scandals that have been exposed. When you talk about joy and you're speaking to men and women who have been violated, what do you say?
I would say you're probably not feeling it right now. And it's not the first thing that comes up for you right now. But I would say there's joy in healing. There's joy in picking up the phone and calling the therapist. There's joy in asking a friend to sit down for coffee and just talking. I have shared this with you guys before, but I think on the week of Christmas, it's so important to share again with so many people struggling from mental health issues and trauma and abuse and all of these things, and being alone and all the triggers. When you sit down with a friend, I want you to ask them one of two things. If they need to talk, first of all, I want you to ask your friends and family, can I just listen to you? Can I listen to what you have going on? I have 2 ears. God gave me 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. I'd like to listen, but I'd like to ask you a question. Can I listen or listen to provide a solution? Right? Do you want me just to listen, just to let you get it out, or listen to help you provide a solution? So what I would tell somebody who's going through the midst of trauma, because my word, I've been through it, as well myself, is that taking that one tiny step towards healing, towards living. Maybe if you're going through it right now, it's as simple as brushing your teeth today. It might be as simple as getting out of the bed today. That might be your joy. That might be your step towards joy. So joy doesn't always look like dancing in the rain and, twirling around with your lover and putting, tinsel on the Christmas tree. But joy is not always that way. Sometimes it's just the persistent will to live and to move and moving towards joy. And I tell you, there is such joy in healing and such joy in moving towards a place where you say, I refuse to stay a victim.
Right.
I am meant to be a victor.
Right. Oh, that's a good place to start. We have to take a break for a moment, but let's hang on to that thought. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back with Rachel Baribeau.
People often ask me, this Jesus guy, isn't he mean? Isn't he mad? Doesn't he tell you what to do, what not to do? As Pastor Tommy said, if you ever felt a little voice in the back of your head or in your heart telling you, I love you, you're good enough, you're a miracle, I created you, I'm with you, I've never left you, that is Jesus. Yes, that is Jesus. That is Jesus.
Well, we're here with Rachel Baribeau, and we're talking about the things that can steal away our joy. Her new book is coming out very soon called Relentless Joy. You want to get a copy of that. And I'm hoping that Rachel will send me a free copy because this is her favorite program to be on. Anyway, Rachel, you were talking about, being there, the romantic side, dancing with that favorite person and doing a pirouette.
Don't we all do that?
I did it the other night. We finally got around to decorating the tree. The boxes were everywhere. And my wife yanked me out of the chair. And I think we're doing Rocking Around the Christmas Tree. And we were doing it. Don't go, aw. That just sounds so lame. Oh, man. Anyways, I did the dance. I just about killed myself, but I did it. And we were very happy and very joyful.
There you go.
But I'm being a little facetious because I'm a useless dancer. But Rachel, you've had to do some amazing dance steps through life as you've navigated things, and we're really excited to hear that you have been married now just over a year. Tell us about that.
You make me cry. Happy tears, as my grandmother would call them. I have found the one my soul loves. And I was telling somebody yesterday, one of my kings that I spoke to back in 2017, guys, who wears my bracelet still and had rubbed all the writing off of it from 2017 and was still wearing it and asked for another one. I'll have to send you guys some, by the way. And I was telling him, because he was getting married next month, and he was asking me, some advice and some different things. I said, here's the deal. When you're in covenant marriage with somebody, it doesn't mean it's perfect. You will have hard times. We'll have squabbles. My husband and I are both type A passionate people. So we love passionately, we work passionately, and we fight passionately, and we make up passionately.
There you go.
But being married to me, it's like, this is what I told him. You get to live with your best friend. Who doesn't want to live with I get to see my best friend every day. And our secret power, and every marriage has one, our secret power in our marriage happens to be humor. If we, over the years, we've learned, we've been together 5, married 1, but especially this year, becoming one, right? We've learned that there's a lot of times where we can both sense a fight is about to start, and both of us, he's really great at it. He'll make me laugh or do something silly, and the fight just dissipates. And the other thing, if I'm telling on myself and just being honest, was before I met him, gang, I was a single woman with a dog. He has 4 amazing, beautiful children. So some of the things that I was doing inside the marriage, I didn't know it. But it was, I was leaning on who I used to be, and I only had to take care of myself. I only had to make myself a shake. I only had to order for myself. And so this year has been a beautiful lesson for me in terms of not coming off, shedding my old skin and becoming in this new wineskin of Christ, of being married and thinking about my husband first. I'm not a selfish person by nature, but for all those years, I just did for me. I just took care of me and my dog. And so marriage is the ultimate learning experience for life. And it's also an intimacy that's almost beyond words.
Oh, how beautifully said. I love that.
I'll agree. I agree to that. Okay.
But listen, let's move on. Your foundation, I'm changing the narrative.
Yeah.
It's more than a hashtag, as your tagline says. And after you had so many talks with athletes, coaches, owners, and others who use the hashtag to speak of how your talks have changed their lives, I want to ask you about that. Tell us some stories of some of the impact that this has done for people's lives, because it's been amazing.
Yeah, so I just had another player reach out to me, and he heard my talk in 2017. And his name's Solomon, and he just reached out to me and he asked if he could kind of serve in the movement, if I would help him. I'm going to help him become a public speaker underneath I'm Changing the Narrative, which is our big thing that we're doing in 2023, is helping other speakers come up underneath our tent of I'm Changing the Narrative and helping them develop their talk along with our tenets, which is purpose, passion, platform, good love for yourself and others, joy, mental health, interpersonal relationships. So I teach other people how to weave their stories together, and then we're going to send them out. Our movement is I'm Changing the Narrative, and help touch and affect more people. So it serves two purposes, and it really came about when my mom passed away from cancer. And it was that I know I'm going to die and I know where I'm going. I'm going to heaven, but this life is but a vapor. So I said to myself, how can I make sure this movement lives on? And it's twofold. I can help people have a tangible skill, which is help them learn to be a public speaker. But two, it's a ripple on the pond. And then they go out and they affect more people. And so Solomon coming back after almost 6 years. And he said to me, he said, your words helped me when my mama passed away. It helped me lead and guide my younger siblings. And he said, your words from 2017 have never left my heart.
Oh,
and
wow.
Oh, you're like, what? Like, are you kidding me? And I have to tell you very, very quickly, I just went to a high school in Arkansas. And I had this idea. I found it on Facebook. I went to a high school in Arkansas, and I challenged everybody in the high school, second time there in 1 year, to write on a Post-it note anonymously their innermost feelings, and that we were going to post them along the wall so that everybody could see what other people are going through. We were going to write affirmations to the ones that were struggling, but it was really an opportunity for young people to have their voice heard and to finally say what was inside their soul. And gang, I'm telling you, there were probably 1,000 Post-it notes that we posted along this glass wall in their high school. And they said everything from, I love myself today, I'm doing good, to I'm just struggling, my home life is really bad, to I hate myself. And so having these Post-it notes on this wall was, one, a chance, like I mentioned, for them to have their feelings heard, but two, it allowed their peers to develop a sense of empathy that other people were struggling. And three, it allowed the teachers and the administration to see what the kids were really going through. And lastly, it allowed the mental health club, Don't Suffer Alone, that was started after my first visit by a senior there named Sydney Parker. They're going to go alongside and post Post-it notes with affirmations along the negative ones, so that they know they're not alone. Don't struggle alone. You are worth it. You're a miracle, and you are meant to be here. And I always say this, you haven't even met all the people you're going to love yet.
Right.
You don't even know the goodness that is up around the corner.
Oh, wow.
Rachel, as I'm listening to what you're saying, we're almost out of time, which is always a drag, especially with you. We love you. We're really glad you're here on the program. Jesus impacted your life. And if you had 30 seconds, 45 seconds to tell people how that's possible for them, would you please do that?
I would say it very quickly and very briefly. He loves you. And if you've been church hurt or people hurt, listen to me, it hurt him too. Don't shun the God of the universe who created you. You are not a mistake. You're not defective. You're not broken. He did not take the day off when he made you. He loves you. He is there with you. He is there knocking at the door of your heart, waiting to be invited in. It is the greatest love story. He died on a cross for you. He swallowed your sins. And the saddest thing that happens to him every day is living a life apart from you. So all you have to say is, there's no special prayers. Is come to me, Lord, live in my heart. Forgive me. I want to live with you, and you will go on the greatest love affair that you have ever seen in your entire life. Whew.
Yes.
My Jesus, my best friend.
Rachel, it is always such a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you
much.
so much for joining us again today.
I love you guys. I truly
you
do.
too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rachel. Love you. Talk to you soon.
All right, everyone, stay with us. We're going to be right back.
Wiggle your toes and be where your feet are. Maybe it's a little kid in a Superman outfit outside of McDonald's, just running, so joyful, not a care in the world. Maybe it's your children. Maybe it's your sanity. Maybe it's you, that you have chosen you and you have made you proud, and you are doing things that are making you proud. You're not giving up on your workouts. You're not giving up in the way that you're eating. You are keeping toxic people away. You are honoring your boundaries. I don't know what those things are that make you, when you wiggle your toes, happy and grateful, but I want you to revel in them.
Rachel just explodes with joy.
Yeah,
and I
it's
love
fantastic.
it. You know, and it's so authentic, because it's not like, oh, I'm just happy for today. When you hear what she's gone through, when you hear the choices she's had to make, when you hear what she's had to surrender, lay down, and how she's been able to bring herself up because of the foundation of Christ in her life, and going to the Lord and finding those answers in the Word and choosing joy, and even in the littlest things, you're like, wow,
You're
that's
starting
real.
to preach.
I guess so.
No, it's very true.
You know?
And it makes sense, especially when you understand the movement that she's a part of. You know,
Right.
hashtag I'm changing the narrative.
Yeah.
And if there's something that I could wish for all of our viewers, is that, you know, it's easy to be taken down. They're saying, how do I change the narrative today? I mean, just like you and me, it can be a little thing. It just kind of trips us.
Right.
And then, you know, we got the frumps. And we don't want that, do we?
No, we don't.
No, because frumpy becomes grumpy. And
That's right.
yeah, they're starting to rhyme here. I'm just going to end it there.
Good.
I'm going to end it there. But I want to say to you today that if you've not experienced the joy of Jesus in your heart, today's a great day to do that. And as we listen to the stories, and we have so many people that share their story here on The Perspective, I want you to realize that Julie, you and I, both in a similar way to Rachel, we've encountered the joy of Jesus.
We have.
And you've been for years walking with him,
So have
and
you.
ups and downs,
Yeah.
but he's been there.
He has been.
Yeah. And that's our reminder to you today, that he will be there for you, and that Jesus is more than enough. Stay with us. I'll be right back with today's teaching.
This Christmas, give a gift that can make a lasting impression. Because do they really need another? Food for the Hungry's gift catalog does something few gifts can: change the lives of people.
Well, we've been talking so much about joy today, and either you're saying, hey, I'd like to have more joy in my life. Can you explain to me how? Maybe you're thinking it's a bunch of malarkey, that, you know, we just live out life and we take what comes our way. But I would like to think, and I'm going to presume today, that you want to discover how to know and walk in God's joy. And one of the key things is to learn to listen to his voice. Because there are so many negative voices out there that are speaking doom and gloom, or maybe reminding you of your failure or what seems to be an impossible situation. Hey, welcome to the Christmas story. The Christmas story is beautiful because not only do we hear the story of Christ's birth, but we see how God communicated to people in a variety of ways. We see it through angels. We see it through strong impressions given on people's hearts, and a variety of other ways. Let's back up for a moment and see how God speaks. Because perhaps you've grown up in a background similar to mine, where many times we're said, we can only read the Bible, and whatever the Bible says, that's it. And I agree with that 100%. But I also know that God takes the scripture and he speaks into our heart truth. I also know that as I'm listening for God's voice, he will nudge me, he will direct me in the way to go. I want to explain and prove some of the things that I've just said. So as we come to the Christmas story, one of the ways that God speaks that leaves us all a little uneasy is that God spoke through dreams. And through a dream, he spoke to Joseph. And he said, don't be afraid to take Mary as your wife. And he unpacks all that had happened. We see that Mary also had an encounter with an angel. My goodness, the angel comes and he says to Mary, what is happening within you is of the Holy Spirit. And you will bear a child, and his name will be Jesus. And he will be there for the salvation of many people. Does God speak through dreams? Well, I believe he does. I've had a few dreams that have been very significant in my life, and I know my wife has. We've seen them come to pass. I also know that I don't poo-poo that. I take seriously what happens. I have a friend, and he shared with me just so recently how God woke him up and he couldn't get back to sleep. And he spoke some things into his heart. He's not a young person, he's an older person. And within 2 days, those things had come to pass. It's through the impersonation, the impression of the Holy Spirit speaking into his heart. And he said, God, what is that all about? I think that we've missed so much in our relationship with God by not realizing that he wants to dialogue with us. And sometimes as I'm reading through my Bible, it's almost like it jumps alive to me. And I realize that God is giving me a word. He's giving me a direction. You know, with angels, it says he commands his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. And the reminder is that the angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear and trust him. Think of what an encouragement it was to Mary, that as daunting as it was to be the mother of the Christ child and wondering how she was even going to live and survive, and knowing that this baby would grow up and eventually be put to death on a cross, the angel is there speaking truth. And one of the truths that he says to Mary is, Mary, nothing is impossible to God. I find that in Scripture. I find that over and over, God wants to reassure me and remind me of that truth in my life day by day. Sometimes God speaks through dreams. And as we see with Joseph, there are guiding dreams. Look at Matthew 1:20. But after he considered this, an angel of the Lord, talking about Joseph, appeared to him in a dream and said, don't be afraid to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is of the Holy Spirit. And then it goes on, all this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet. The virgin will be with child and will give birth to a son, and they'll call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. Then after the child has been born, there is a lady named Anna and a man named Simeon who were constantly in the temple, and they were waiting for the Messiah to come, because the Lord had said to Simeon, impress it on his heart, you'll not die until you've seen the Lord's anointed. Wow, I get excited in realizing that God is able to speak, and we need to live in the realm of the supernatural. You can't experience the joy of Christmas unless you truly believe in the supernatural. And God today wants to invade your space. He wants to fill you with his joy if you will listen for his voice, listen for that quiet whisper, and take time to read Scripture, to read his word, because that needs to be the foundation of your mind and your soul and all your thoughts.